In 1940, Hitler met with Spanish governor Francisco Franco at a train station near the Spanish-French border. Hitler tried to persuade Franco to join the Axis forces in the war against the Allies, but Franco refused. What led these two former allies to disagree on forming a new alliance? And why was Hitler so eager for Spain to join the war alongside his forces? Hitler and Franco were not strangers to each other. Just a few years earlier, the Spanish Civil War had raged between the nationalist and Republican forces in Spain. The Spanish Civil War was fought from 1936 to 1939 between the Republicans and the Nationalists. Republicans were loyal to the left-leaning Popular Front government and consisted of various socialist and communist parties. The opposing Nationalists were an alliance of monarchists and conservatives. Franco, aligned with the Nationalists, quickly rose through the ranks to become their leader. He sought Hitler's help in acquiring arms and ammunition. German involvement began just days after fighting broke out in July 1936. Adolf Hitler quickly sent powerful air units that participated in combat. On the ground, though Germany did not deploy formal ground combat forces like Italy, they supplied several hundred armoured vehicles and combat instructors. For Germany, the conflict also provided valuable combat experience with the latest military technology. However, Hitler was cautious, limiting his support to avoid escalating the situation into a world war for which he was not yet prepared. Instead, he encouraged Benito Mussolini to send large Italian ground units, which did engage in land battles. As the Second World War began in Europe in September 1939, Franco had established complete control over Spain, having fully defeated the communist forces. Despite this, he was not eager to enter the war, as the Spanish Civil War had only ended a few months earlier, in early 1939. However, Franco closely observed the ongoing conflict and was shocked by the fall of France in 1940, just 10 days after Hitler's forces invaded. Within days of the invasion, Hitler's influence had reached Spain's borders. Although France had fallen, Hitler needed as many allies as possible, knowing that the war against the remaining enemies would be challenging. Hitler had hoped that he could drag Spain alongside him as repayment for the help he had given during the Spanish Civil War. His expectations were high. A meeting between Franco and Hitler was arranged near the Spanish-French border in the town of Hendaya. Hitler had to wait several hours at the train station before Franco finally arrived with his wagon. The meeting took place on October 23rd, and after 7 hours of talks, the Spanish demands still appeared extortionate to Hitler. The Spanish demands included the handing over of Gibraltar once the British were defeated, the cession of French Morocco and part of French Algeria, the attachment of French Cameroon to the Spanish colony of Guinea, and German supplies of food, petrol and arms to relieve the critical situation faced by Spain after the Spanish Civil War. The only concrete outcome was the signing of a secret agreement in which Franco committed to entering the war at a time of his own choosing, while Hitler gave only vague promises that Spain would receive territories in Africa. A few days later, Hitler famously told Benito Mussolini, "I would rather have 3 or 4 of my own teeth pulled out than speak to that man again." Had Spain joined the Axis, it is likely that it would have been invaded by British and French forces, who might have used it as a base to fight Germany. However, if Spain had joined the Allies, it risked German attacks once Hitler completed the conquest of France. This is why neutrality was the only way for Spain, and Franco in particular, to preserve its territorial integrity. Franco did send some troops to the war as volunteers, with the condition that they only be used to fight communism, not the Allies. The unit fought on the Eastern Front, and notably participated in the 1941 to 1944 siege of Leningrad, but was withdrawn from the front after Allied pressure in October 1944 and returned to Spain soon afterwards. Several thousand of them were incorporated into the 121st Infantry Division, the short-lived Blue Legion, and eventually into the Waffen-SS. After the war, Many Nazis escaped to Spain to avoid trial for their involvement in World War II. The most famous Nazi who spent his post-war years in Spain was Otto Skorzeny, the self-proclaimed most dangerous man in Europe. The Allies gave him this name as he was one of the best special operations officers of the Waffen-SS. He managed to escape the Nuremberg trials and fled to Spain, where he spent the rest of his life. He, along with others, lived a peaceful life in Spain, away from the trials many others faced back in Germany. If you liked my video, please consider subscribing. See you in the next one.